Slamdy, Agro, Slamdy, Agro, Slamdy, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. But you know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome, episode 610, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here. It is June 23rd, 2024. Padres, they take 3 out of 4 from the Brewers. Could have had the 4-game sweep today, but they end up not really having a close game there against Milwaukee, losing 6-2 today. A lot to talk about on the show. All 4 games in this series. Jackson Merrill, his power coming about here in his rookie season. Injury updates with Profar, Fernando, Campusano went on the IL. Bogart's still on the IL. Musgrove on the IL. Darvish is going to start, hopefully, it seems like Tuesday, for that national series. And then I will be allowing fans, obviously, to come on the show if you want to. You can click that link pinned up at the top of the chat. I will get to the comments, questions, as always, there in the live chat for those that are live here. If you're not, you can be live here on future shows. If you click that notification bell up when you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, you click that notification bell, and that will give you that notification of when a video is posted, when I go live, so that you can be a part of this show as well. Obviously, appreciate everyone for the time here tonight. First 3 games I can talk about more in depth. Today, I was working, so I'm not going to act like I watched the entire game. But today, they lose 6-2. Padres, they are 41-41. Some would say that even, winning 4 games in a row, winning 5 consecutive home games, this team's just mid. So there's not a whole lot to get excited about. But for me, as an optimistic Padres fan and someone that watches these games, most of these games, almost all of the games, I watch all the games that I do watch. And then obviously the highlights for the full games or the condensed versions of those that I don't watch. I see positives in this team. I see Jackson Merrill. I see Jake Cronenworth with a bounce back year. I see Jurickson Profar playing like an all-star. Not like an all-star. He is going to be an all-star this year. Fernando, we'll see what happens with his health, but he's been playing better before he's had to deal with this quad. He's been dealing with the quad stuff. Excuse me, that's the washer dryer, but he's been dealing with this quad stuff for a while now. It's really the elbow that's the problem when he got hit by the pitch the other night. And obviously he was going to miss that next day, Saturday, and then he missed today as well. And they're still evaluating that. But we'll get to more of a Fernando update here in a little bit. But there's positives, A lot of the guys in the bullpen, I know that fans, we see the bullpen blow-ups, and Johnny Brito, right, the other day, giving up the grand slam, and oh no, this game's closer than it should be, right, at 6-0, and then it's 6-4. But let's remind you, someone like Yuki Matsui, he has bounced back since those rough couple of outings, and I think his last 7 outings have been pretty darn good. Tom Cosgrove back at the big league level. And there's more positives that I can get into. Some guys seem like they're going to be coming back here, mainly Yu Darvish as the main focus there of someone coming back. Suarez, obviously, we know the year that he has. Estrada, Adrian Morejon. So there's positives here. I know we're looking at it like, man, we have maybe 3 of the best outfielders in the National League. We have the best contact hitter in baseball. We have these names on the team, obviously, and yet they're a 500 team. So that's where the disappointment is. But at the same time, you look at the other teams in the NL and you look at the injuries that the Padres have had to deal with. You look at the schedule that they've had to deal with. I'm choosing to look at this optimistically here and that the Padres, they're headed in the right direction, even though they're still a 500 team. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to finish the season 10 games over 500. I'm just saying that I feel like encouraging things are coming here. What I'm seeing is encouraging. And I think that they could end up, 5 games over 500 by the end of the year. If they're a 500 team, I don't really care, to be honest. I care that they make the postseason, right? Teams that go on a long run, do we remember the exact amount of wins that they have in the regular season? Or do we remember the postseason run that they went on? Do we remember they did enough to get in and they went on a run and then they won the World Series, right? Do do I remember? Now, I'm not a hardcore Nationals fan, right? But do I remember the exact amount of wins that the Nationals have, or that they had, excuse me, in 2019 when they made the postseason as a wild card team? I do not. I remember that they started with 19 wins, 19 and 30 something, because that number kept getting thrown out there, that record, as they were making that run. But things turned around, and they had a bunch of talent on that team. And I think the Padres, we got talent on this team. So again, I care about making the postseason. I don't care about how many wins they have. As long as they get in, that's what I care about. And then go on a run, right? Like, I'm not saying get in and then get swept in a wild card series. I'm saying get in and then perform well. Play good baseball there at the end so that you're playing good baseball in postseason time like they were in 2022. But back to today. So Michael King was on the mound today for the Padres. 6 innings, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 8 punch outs, gave up 9 hits. I saw that line there, and I'm like, okay, so he did not have a good start, but he settled in there after that second inning where the Brewers dropped a 5 spot on the Padres, had a 5-0 lead. For those that were watching this game, you probably felt like the game was over. And I wouldn't blame you for that. Profar was back in the lineup today, though. He went 1 for 4. Arias had a couple of hits. Croney 1 for 4. Manny 1 for 3. Merrill 1 for 4. Good to see Merrill the last couple of days. He's been in that 5 spot. But with Michael King, watching the highlights, that big inning that they had, there wasn't a whole lot of hard hit balls. In fact, there was a lot of balls that were outside the strike zone that the Brewers swung at, and they were able to find holes in the Padres defense. They were able to just get it over the infield and right in the right spot where it drops in. I'm not saying all of them were not hard hit, but it was not like they were smashing balls all over the place against Michael King. That's not what I saw. Now, I wasn't watching the entire game, but from the highlights that I saw, that's what I saw. So, sure, in terms of the results, which matter the most, the earned runs, that's not what you want to see. And Michael King has been a little bit inconsistent this year. But for anyone that's watching Michael King, you know that the talent is there. And Dylan Cease, we know the talent is there as well. I thought he took a step forward in his start. Hopefully they get Darvish back, and he's going to pitch well starting on Tuesday against the Nationals. Remember, he went on that, 4-5 start run, not allowing a run, and then he got lit up against the Yankees, obviously. So if they can get that Darvish, that run that he went on, not every time out, but consistent frontline starter Darvish, you add that to Matt Waldron, and then Dylan Cease, the talent he has, and then we'll see what happens with Musgrove. I'm not really thinking about Musgrove right now, though, because it's at least after the All-Star break is when he's going to come back. But the rotation should be in a pretty decent spot. Randy Vasquez will go down, I would expect, and Tom Cosgrove will stay up in the bullpen, which is good. He pitched well in those last 9 outings in the minor leagues, and we know when he is on, he's got nasty pitches. So that will be welcoming, not just to have Cosgrove, but obviously to have Darvish back. And then offensively today, 2 runs, obviously, it's going to be hard to win a lot of games when you're facing the best team in a division and you score 2 runs. So that's really that. Not a lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position. Went 2 for 4, left 6 guys on base today. And in comparison, the Brewers had 13 opportunities with runners in scoring position. So they created a lot more chances today. That's for sure. All right. Yesterday, Padres, they won 6-4. Let's get to more of the happy moments in this series. Jackson Merrill, my goodness, I'm so happy that he is the Padres center fielder. He is in our colors, the brown and gold. 3-run bomb from him in the bottom of the 4th made it 3-0. Kim Homer made it 4-0. Bottom 7. Higgy with the homer made it 6-0. Yes, Bryce Trang had that grand slam when he was choking up on the bat, and it looked like it was just going to be a pop-up to left field, but it just kept carrying, and it ends up being a homer. Made it 6-4, but Robert Suarez comes into the game, and it ended up not mattering because it's not like he pitched today. So he ends up just 3 pitches, get the final out of that game, 19th save on the year. And yeah, that's that. The offense, it was a good day for the offense. I saw some more encouraging signs. Just the offense in general, not just the big guys coming through, but someone like Ha-Seong Kim having himself a 2-hit day there. Now, we saw the lineup, what it would look like if no Nando, no Profar. Profar, it seems like he's going to have more DH days. Actually, I take that back. I would have said that if I didn't read the UT. I think it was Jeff Sanders that was writing about how actually him DHing kind of hurts Profar when he's dealing with the knee thing because he's not consistently moving around like he is in left field. So actually, we might not see very many DH days for Profar. We may see more off days instead of just a DH day for Profar. The good news, though, is upcoming in this Padres schedule is a lot more off days. They have an off day on Thursday after this National Series. I'm trying to pull up the schedule right now, so hold on one second. There's I think an off day every Thursday in July, something like that. So off day the last Thursday of June before they play the Red Sox. And then they have an off day Monday, July 8th, an off day July 11th, and then obviously 4 days off for the All-Star break. Then they have an off day after one series against Cleveland. Then they have another off day the next Monday, the 29th, before facing the Dodgers. So scratch the every Thursday thing, but they do have an off day back-to-back Thursdays, the 11th and the 18th in July. By the way, they go a while without playing at home. They play at home the Braves July 14th. Then there's the All-Star break. Then they have 3 series on the road after the All-Star break, and they don't come back home till the 30th. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 days. No games at Petco Park. 15 days, including the All-Star break there in July. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up, something to keep an eye on. So Profar could have a good amount of rest while still playing left field. He gets those built-in off days, and that could be a good thing for Fernando. Will be a good thing for the bullpen as well because they've been worked a good amount more than Shildt and Niebla and Ben Fritz probably, and the relievers themselves probably want to because starters just have not been going super long. Cease takes a step forward, but it's not like he went 6-7 innings the other night, right? He went, 4 2/3, didn't even get through 5, but he still struck out 10 guys. But those strikeouts, those walks, they do add up. But just overall yesterday, Merrill going dead center. I think it was on the fastball. This guy, there's the questions that come up, and rightfully so from the media, about where has anything changed with Jackson Merrill? What's with this power surge? Because he had 7 home runs in the last 10 games after yesterday's game, right? Not including today. And so it's like, where did this power come from? And I was not expecting him to go on this home run, this home run stretch here. But Jackson Merrill, I think we know the answer when we're asking that question. I'm saying we. I'm not in there, but the media. I think you know what the answer is going to be, like confidence. He's not changing something. This is who he is. He is there to hit line drives, put together good at-bats, see ball, and hit ball. He's more comfortable. I think that's what he said in some of his answers. He's confident. I don't think he's over cocky. I don't think so. He's confident. He's had a good amount of at-bats. It's June 23rd. He's been in the big leagues the entire season so far, and he's not going anywhere soon. So he's more comfortable. I know and you guys have probably experienced this as well, in a new job that you start, you're not comfortable, not as comfortable the first couple weeks as you are when you're a few months into the job and you know what you're doing pretty much every day. You know the people around you. And so you're just in there more comfortable and you can be yourself, and it probably produces better results or more efficient results, And so that's what I'm seeing from Jackson Merrill. I love the attitude in terms of winning. I'm not saying he has this big attitude. I'm saying I like the attitude in terms of he's there to go win baseball games. And he has the attitude of, I don't care who I'm playing. I'm there to go win a baseball game. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to help my team win this baseball game. And then we're going to go home. And then we'll do it all again the next day. It doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like he's held up on what happens that day if something bad happens. I remember watching a presser earlier this year, or a media scrum, where I think one of his answers to a question was, I'm focused on tomorrow. This today already happened, so I'm focused on tomorrow. And now that's easier to say when you lose than when you win, probably. You probably like to talk about the wins, but that is his mentality. And that, as a baseball player, when your season is that long, that's what your mentality should be. As much as us fans hang on to these wins and remember these wins and losses, I'm not saying the players don't remember the bad losses or the really good wins, the walk-off wins, right? I'm not saying that. But baseball players forget games, what day it is probably. They forget that stuff way quicker than fans do because they have a job to do where us fans, we just sit here and we're watching everything and we love the team and it's not our job to be watching this. We love watching this, and so we're just fixated on every little thing where players got to move on or else you're probably not going to be in a good mental space, headspace to be able to go perform the next day, the next series, the next week, right? You don't want those slumps to keep going and going and going. So, Jackson Merrill, I mean, the discussion yesterday on my post-game reaction was about like All-Star game, and I could definitely see it. All-Star game starter, though, and I went into this more on the post-game reaction, so you can go watch that if you want to. And I'm sure there'll be questions and comments about Merrill that I'll get to here in a little bit. But it was pretty much starter. I don't think that's going to happen. There's Christian Yelich out there. There's Teoscar Hernandez out there. I don't think that the voters, fans, I don't think Merrill's going to get in that top three. I definitely see Profar. I see Tatis, the name, obviously, right? And he's the numbers. It's been okay. Pretty. We want it to be better for Tatis, right? Just overall the entire season. But, you know, you'll take it for All-Star game when the group in the National League for the outfield, it's just not that strong. It's just not. So Merrill All-Star, I mean, you want the must watch. Merrill is must watch. I know I'm biased because I'm a Padres fan, but hopefully other fan bases, if they watch Jackson Merrill, hopefully Milwaukee Brewers fans were like, that dude is legit. That is a must watch player right there. Because I see that in other teams. Now, I'm a baseball fan all around, so I know all these guys' names and I know who they are. But when there's something out there, they face an opponent, and I'm like, yeah, that guy is must watch. Or someone's hot going into a series and they play well against you. It's like, all right, I'll keep tabs on that player a little bit more. And hopefully that's Jackson Merrill for other fan bases around baseball because we've been watching it every day. We know how talented this guy is, and he is a fan favorite, no doubt about it. I don't know what the fan favorite list is amongst Padres fans. Like, is Tatis one? Is Kim? Kim is probably up there, at least, with the Ha-Seong Kim chance at Petco. I think Padre fans love Joe. I think Jeremiah Estrada's up there. Robert Suarez, obviously, because, he's fun to watch, but also because it's a safe situation for the most part when he's coming into a game. So that means good news. I don't know how. I think most Padres fans, Manny is still up there because it's Manny Machado. But if you would ask social media, I don't know how favorable he would be on that list. But Merrill is, if not at the top, he's probably in the top three amongst this year's team. Because I think Tatis, you just got to put him in there because it's Fernando. Profar, I probably need to mention him. He's a fan favorite for sure as well. There's a good amount of guys that are fan favorites on this team, but Merrill is definitely up there for sure. So he continues to rake. He homered on Saturday in that 6-4 win. Randy Vasquez, probably his last outing because Darvish is going to take over. Again, with him, I always go back to, okay, so him or Adam Major for that spot start. And for me, it's Randy Vasquez. I like the velocity. I like the stuff that he has. Is he going to make some mistakes? Is he going to walk some guys? Yeah. But he's got the big league experience. Major does now as well, but not as much. And Vasquez, I think he can do both. He can start. He can relieve if you need him to. He can give you a good 5 innings. He's had some even better outings than, what was that, on Saturday. So I'm going to give him the first chance other than Major. If his name has to be called at some point later this year, which I anticipate it will because it's baseball and injuries happen. A good job out of the bullpen for the most part, other than Brito, who gave up those 4 runs. And of course, when he gave up the grand slam, what do I see? A bunch of people saying, send Brito down. He needs to be gone. And it's like, well, let's realize the role that he has on the team. He's the long man. When it's not the closest game, he's going to come in and pitch. If he gives up a grand slam, he gives up a grand slam. And the good news is the Padres had a big enough lead where it's not like that was a tie game all of a sudden. And so we got to remember that. They probably want to keep Vasquez built up as a starter as well. So they're going to put him in El Paso, and they'll have Brito still be on the roster. And so it'll just be Darvish up, Vasquez down. And Major was up. The reason why they can go reliever for starter, right? Cosgrove up, Major down is because Musgrove's not coming up anytime soon. So it allows that, So that's really like the state of the bullpen right now. It's Suarez, it's Estrada, it's Morejon, and then everyone else probably. I think that's fair to say at this point in time, unless I'm totally blanking on someone. But a pretty good offensive day on Saturday. On Friday, Padres won that one 9-5. A bunch of runs scored by the Padres in this series. We'll see how consistent it can be. Again, Dylan Cease, I thought he took a step forward. I thought he looked better. It's just that the walks and the strikeouts, right? It's a minimum of 3 pitches. 10 times 3, that's 30. Another 4 at least. So right there, that's 38 at least. And it's not 38. It's more than that because you're not striking out guys only on 3 pitches. You're not walking guys only on 4 pitches. And so the pitch count increases pretty high, and he's out of there not even through 5 innings. But we got to see Tom Cosgrove. No innings allowed there. Kolek, great job just from the entirety of the bullpen, really. When you think about it, Kolek threw a lot of pitches. He threw, 40 pitches. Cosgrove threw 26. De Los Santos almost threw 20. But it allowed Estrada not to throw. It allowed Suarez not to throw. So that was good. And the Padres offense was able to give Dylan Cease that cushion. Not early in the game because the Brewers did have that lead. It was a comeback win from the Padres. Brewers had a 4-1 lead there going into the bottom of the 5th when Arias had that homer, which it's not going to happen often. And at Petco, that's maybe the one spot that Arias is going to hit a homer. Maybe he would have homered at Petco if those Phillies games were played at Petco that last series because he was providing some power to the opposite field, but those just weren't going to be homers there in Philly. But it was good to see Arias have that occasional pop. And when we see the StatCast numbers about, Luis Arias, he has the slowest bat speed in baseball. Well, it's because a lot of the time he's looking to make contact. He's not looking to swing hard. A ball's outside the strike zone, but he feels like he needs to protect and get to it, and he takes it oppo for a hit. Yeah, the bat speed's not going to be super fast there. But when it needs to be fast, it's fast. He gets that bat through the zone fast. On those inside pitches, he gets it through fast if you watch him. So sometimes I disagree with that. I know you can't disagree with a number, but it's not like he's swinging the bat slow every time up there. Other takeaways from this game, so bottom 6, Croney just continued to be on a tear, and he's another one of those good stories from this Padres year and may make the All-Star game at second base if some injuries or if some guys don't play, you would think, right? He's having a good season. His OPS right now is 786, 266 average. He already has more home runs this year than he had all of last year. So he had a homer, and he had a big night. That was not just the only action last night from Croney. Solano with the single made it 5-4. And by the way, props to Manny. He showed hustle, doubled down the line. He had a good night as well. 4 hits on the night for him, 4 for 5. Croney went 5 for 5, scored 4 runs, drove in 2 runs. But Manny, hustle double, dove in there head first. I would have preferred the slide. I don't like those dive head first, but Manny's gonna Manny, and those guys that dive head first, they must feel like it gets them there sooner. I don't know, but I would slide. But he hustled around to home to score. which was great. Donnie Barrels, by the way, good call from Shildt there to have Solano pinch hit for David Peralta in that spot. Ends up working out great. Game got tied, though, 5-5 on the throwing error from Kim, which is uncharacteristic. But Croney came back huge, singled through the left side. Sugar scored, and props to Profar, by the way. He got the double. He exited the game, but obviously he was back today. And he was dealing with the knee issue. And I love that once he knew that he was not going to be able to score when he was at second base, get me out of the game because he's the team guy. We need someone in here that can run. He knows that he usually has Zokar go in and play left field for him anyway late in games when they have a lead. So let's get the fast guy out here. It's late in the game. Let's go win it with some other guys in this lineup. And Croney comes through, makes it 6-5. 7-5 on the bases loaded walk. Fielder's choice makes it 8-5. And then Manny comes through with a single, making it 9-5. I don't think that was a very hard hit ball, but put the ball in play. Good things can happen. And is Manny back? For me, like numbers wise, he's back because he's playing well in the month of June here, and that's weeks that he's played. But for me, it's not like an emphatic he is back. If you don't look at the numbers, I'm seeing encouraging signs, but it's not a loud like, oh, it's clear he is back. If you're just watching these games, it's more of like a, okay, it's better, but it's not at the Manny that we want. I feel like still. I don't know how he feels about that, but that's what I would say about that. But his numbers have improved. And I'm pulling them up right now. So through today, his OPS, that's the thing. Like overall this year, his numbers 694 OPS, 260 average. And it's like, yeah, that's not great. That's not the Manny Machado we need. But if you look at the splits, his last 15 games, he has a 389 slug, 304 on base, 296 average. It's really his last 7 games where he's really heated up. 393 average, 536 slug, 5 runs driven in, 11 hits, 5 runs scored. So really the last week is where I'm seeing those encouraging signs. So I do want to see more though for Manny before I'm like, okay, it's clear that he is back. But yeah, a great offensive performance there in game 2 of this series, a 9-5 win. They didn't have to walk it off. So that was good. Needed. And then in game 1 of this series, I totally just closed out that page. So let me just pull that back up. Padres won that one 7-6, obviously, on the walk-off by Jake. So Jake, he had one heck of a 48-hour stretch there, right? As the walk-off homer in game 1 of the series. And by the way, that was one of 2 hits that he had, scored 2 runs in that game. And then the next day, he has 5 hits and scores 4 runs and drives in a couple, has another homer. Great stretch out of him. And defensively, he's been great. I mean, we know how comfortable he is there at second base. I'm not saying he's not good at first, but you see the defensive value that Croney has at second base. You just do. And you'll see it at shortstop if he's ever put at shortstop. You just do. He is a middle infielder that plays first base when Bogey is there. And we'll see if Bogaerts makes that transition to first if the Padres realize, hey, Croney, he's more valuable at second base than he is at first. And so let's move Bogaerts, a bigger target, by the way. Let's move him to first base instead of having Croney there. But I don't think that's a mid-season thing. I think that's a spring training, off-season thing, and don't just pop it on him first day of spring training, but, talk to him. And even if he disagrees, be like, well, we're already paying you, so we're putting you at first. I know you don't like it and you're a competitor, but we're putting you at first. Maybe that's something that happens later down the road, but that's going to be later down the road. I don't think that's a mid-season thing. Or else, I mean, I guess you could make a case for it with Bogey is, hey, you're dealing with a shoulder injury. Maybe there's less of a potential to hurt the shoulder if he's at first, not second. Would he dive less at first? I don't know. But he's also hasn't played the position before. And guys running down the line, that left shoulder, it's his left shoulder, right? Or am I totally, is it his right? He dove. I'm trying to remember the dive. I think it was his left. Anyway, guys running down the first baseline, they could collide on a bad throw with that arm. And I know Bryce Harper had to deal with that with the Phillies as well. Kind of like, I don't know, should we put him at first here? So there's that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But my point, getting back to my point, Croney has been great defensively, obviously, there at second base, which I'm not surprised at all. If you've been following the show, you know I'm a big fan of Croney, and he has the ability to go up the middle, ranging. I mean, either side, really. Like almost nobody at second base in baseball. So good defensively. And he's one of the leaders of the team, obviously. But that walk-off win, 7-6, it should not have been a walk-off win. The Padres, they did have the opportunity to put that one away. I mean, so this one was encouraging because you saw Manny go oppo. That one reminded me, or at least I guess Sal Frelick kind of reminded me of Manny, but Frelick was a lefty, Manny's a righty. They went opposite field. And Manny, to me, when he made contact, it felt like that was a fly ball, and it wasn't a home run. So it wasn't a line drive, but I think that was his first opposite field home run this season. Could be wrong on that, but I think that's what it is. So that's what makes that encouraging there, his ability to drive the ball the opposite way, because we know in Philly there was the story that came out about the slot, having trouble getting into that right slot to do damage on those pitches that he should be doing damage of when his name is Manny Machado, right? So that was good to see. Merrill homering. I think they went back-to-back, right? Yeah, went back-to-back. Manny was hitting fifth, Merrill hitting sixth. Today, Merrill was hitting fifth. But yeah, that was great to see. And Merrill, him hitting a homer on that pitch, if you go back and watch that homer from Thursday, that ball broke. And he did not flinch. He took it, pulled it right field. That's just someone that, like, again, with the experience, he's just confident. He's more comfortable in the box. He's more comfortable facing those types of pitchers, breaking balls in the big leagues. And he knew where that thing was going to end up, and he ended up crushing it. Where it got a little bit hairy, top five, Adames with the homer. I mean, Adam Major in his final start as a Padre for now, before he got sent down, he was, one pitch away from having a good outing. It was okay, when he's your 7 starter. I mean, you'll take it. But Adames hit him for that homer to dead center. If that didn't happen, then we would have been looking at Adam Major, I think, differently, for sure, coming out of that outing. Instead, it's 4 2/3, 5 hits allowed, 3 walks, 3 punch-outs. I think with Major, the command, I think that's something that they're really going to want to work with him on there in the minor leagues. Getting those grounders. We saw that Angels outing where there was a lot of ground balls into the double play. And that was a friend of his. Like, sometimes pitching to contact, that's good. But hitting the spots, getting that ball down, I think that's something that they're going to want to work on there with Adam Major in the minors. Bottom 5, Tatis had the homer, 5-3. I mean, talk about a ball that was launched. The bat flip, the still shot with all Padres fans, like, dropping their jaw when they saw that ball off the bat, knowing how much of a bomb that was that Toddy hit. But, I mean, was that a bat flip or more like a bat launch, bat throw? Because he didn't, like, throw it, but it wasn't one of those where he was staring and then flipped it. It's like it was all one motion. He swung and flipped, like, launched it. I don't know. That was great. That was a signature Tatis bomb. That was amazing to see. Second deck. And then Profar had a double to make it 6-3. And then it was close again, 6-4 with, I think, Yuki on the mound, right? Yeah. No. Wandy. Won an inning. Gave up a run. 2 walks. Strikeout. De Los Santos had to come in. Then Estrada came in. Gave up a couple of runs there. That's what it was. In the 9th inning, Estrada comes in. Wild pitch. Why was Higgy not catching? It's easy to say in hindsight, but If I was thinking, I probably would not have been saying that in hindsight. I would have been saying that during the game. It's like Higgy's the better defensive catcher. This was when Campy was healthy and he wasn't on the IL. You're trying to secure this win. Just put Higgy in there in the ninth. Shildt loves the defensive replacements, having a Sokar go in there for Profar. So why not do it with the catcher? It's one inning. Why not? And Campy was supposed to catch the day after as well, I believe, right? I don't think it was supposed to be Higgy. So, yeah, I don't really understand that. And a wild pitch happens, made it 6-5. Then there's the double on the pitch that was high to Hoskins. Hoskins loves that pitch. Made it 6-6, and then bottom 9 comes around, and Croney with the walk-off. What a moment that was. I mean, we're waiting to see if it was fair or foul, at least watching on TV. And you saw Croney, right? He thought it was gone, knew it was gone. Fair or foul. He's kind of squatting there, making sure that it's fair. And then when it's fair, guys are jumping. Tatis said he forgot about his right leg, which isn't what you want to hear, but adrenaline takes over. The moment takes over. And so hopefully he didn't further hurt himself there jumping, 10 feet in the air. But it was a cool moment, at Petco like that. And the 3 straight home walk-offs, Higgy, Merrill, Croney. Of course, a Tatis walk-off, a Manny walk-off is cool. But to see some of the other guys do it and see the love that those teammates have for those guys, that's just awesome to see, for sure. And again, with All-Star Game, I think a lot of attention is going to Profar and Tatis, and deservedly so. Merrill as well now. But Croney, I'm not going to rule Croney out. I'm not going to do it. And some may want to say, well, it's going to be as a replacement. If it is, I still don't care. I think Padres fans that watch this team pretty much every day know the impact that Croney has had for this team and how solid he has been for this team this year. And I don't know where they would be under 500. I'll say that. They would be under 500 without Jake Cronenworth this year. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I mean, they're 500 right now with Jake. I can say the same thing with Profar, right? And Merrill and some of the moments from Toddy, and Higgy, because Higgy's come up with some, I'm not saying all-star, but he's come up with some important moments as well. Those homers that he hits, most of the time, those are actually in some pretty important moments there. So Padres take 3 out of 4 overall. Like I put on X today, I'll take it. No Bogarts, no Campy, no Tatis for some of it, no Profar for some of it. And Dylan Cease didn't go long. Some of these starters didn't go long. You're facing a first-place Brewers team. I'm taking 3 out of 4. And we saw positive signs, power from this Padres offense. I'm going to take that. It's hard to 4-game sweep teams. It just is. So you take the first 3, and sure, you would like to have the 4-game sweep, but look, win series, and you're going to be in a good spot. And that's what they got to do consistently because, right, again, they're at 500. They've lost series. They've gotten swept in series that they shouldn't get swept in, and that's why they're at 500. But if they win those series consistently, they'll be in the playoffs. All right. I wanted to give some updates here. So there is the Jurickson Profar update, which is he played today, and we'll see what happens with the knee. That's really what the update is it's going to bother him. Some days it's good, some days it's not. And hopefully he alerts the Padres like he did on Friday when he needs to come out of games. I don't think, like I said, I would have said maybe more DH days from Profar, but I think it's going to be more off days from Profar. But with the schedule coming up, with how many off days they have, hopefully they can schedule those off days for then, and the knee's not going to bark at him while they're playing games, and he could be playing left field in those games for a good majority of those games, and then use those off days to his advantage. It's not like they're going to have a bunch of stretches where they play 15 games in 15 days, or 13 and 13, or 25 and 26 days. They've got off days. July is a good month for them, schedule-wise, off day-wise. So we'll see there. The update with Fernando is he would have been available to hit in today's game, I'll play the update here from Mike Shildt, by the way, because he spoke about this post-game. They're still evaluating the quad injury. So here is Shildt. Let me just play it for you.
The hit today. There was a couple of different moments where we were just like, he's available today. We didn't find the spot for him. He's available to hit today. There was a couple of different moments where we were just like a hitter away or a matchup away. Wasn't going to do it to do it. And even in the sixth, there was a window for that. Just didn't present itself to get to that spot. He's available today. We didn't find the spot.
So that's the update there from Mike Shildt. So he was available, and I agree, there was no reason to have him hit today with the situation that the game was in. No reason. Give him a day off, and we'll see what happens. Evaluating the quad. From what I gathered there, it doesn't seem like the elbow is the huge issue. It just seemed like it needed some time. It feels like, and so we got lucky there. It didn't like fracture a bone or something. It seems like the quad is more of the issue, where Fernando is clearly not himself running in the outfield. He's not stealing bases. It's clear he's not himself. So the Padres have to make the determination, is it worth it to put him on the 10-day and give him this time, or use the off days to our advantage? And this is a situation where, would you DH Fernando to have his bat in the lineup? Or would it be you're either playing right field or you're not Fernando? Because maybe that's up to him. Like, is it beneficial for him to have a half day off and DH? So he's not playing right, not spending that extra time on his legs there? Or is it like, no, I need my leg warm here. I need to keep it moving around like Profar with the knee. And so he's going to be playing right field, or he's just not going to be playing. So that's something to keep an eye on there. That's the update, at least the latest that I have seen on the status of Fernando. It seems like he is day to day. And so we'll see if he's in there against the Washington Nationals. But the good news is the elbow. The elbow was not holding him back. That's a quote here. Jeff Sanders posted something in the UT. The elbow wasn't holding him back. He was available to hit off the bench. Padres had the contingency plan in place and are still evaluating the status of his quad. So there's that. And then Campy, there, he has the bone bruise in the thumb. He suffered that catching for Yuki the other day. So he is on the IL. And for me, one or the other, Higgy or Campy, I'm putting Campy on the IL. And I know that's not what it is. He's actually hurt. There's the bone bruise. But I'm just saying, Higgy is being productive for the Padres. I know you look at the average and it's like, yeah, not great. But there's other guys that can carry that offensively. And Higgy can pop one, as we've seen every once in a while. But defensively, he is the better catcher right now. He's engaged. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I would assume that the pass ball wild pitch numbers are better for Higgy, in favor of Higgy over Campy. And he's throwing guys out. Campy, last time I checked, he'd thrown out like one runner all season. Could be more than that now. I think I checked that a week ago maybe. But Higgy is throwing more runners out. He threw a couple runners out the other day in this series. And you have Brett Sullivan, so he's a lefty. He can play other positions other than catcher as well. I think he doesn't have a ton of pop, but he can go the other way with it. You're not expecting much offense from either of those at the big league level. I wouldn't think. Down at the bottom of the order, obviously. But defensively, I like this combination of Sullivan and Higgy. Campy can improve it, and when he comes back, we'll see. But right now, I'm trying to look at this glass half full with the Campy injury. You never want him hurt, but at least it's Higgy that's not on the IL, and it's Campy. So Campy, hopefully he gets well and have him back, and he plays better. Offensively, performs better as well, because I don't know if everyone was expecting a step forward offensively from Campy, but in terms of OPS, it's not there right now. I think it's still under 700. So, yeah, just hopefully there's an overall improvement when he does come back. it doesn't seem like it's a situation where it's going to be more than 10 days. So that's the good thing there. All right. Before I get to the chat, by the way, we are halfway through the season, more than halfway now. We're 82 games in at 500, 41 and 41. And yesterday, after the Padres' 81st game, I asked on social media one word, asked Padres fans to give me one word to describe this team so far. And I got 284 responses. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would take a while, but I'm just going to go through some of them. And there were a lot of the same that popped up. And so I'm going to go through those and give my thoughts on that. So again, my question, officially halfway through the Padres season, what's one word to describe this team so far? John Safer said Jim. And for anyone that knows John and Jim, we joke around on social media. And so I replied, so not great, but not terrible, because I like to rag on Jim a little bit. And that's what this Padres team is. That's why I said that as well. Like, so not great, because they're not having the Yankees record or the Orioles, the best team, the Phillies record. That's probably the best example. But they're not the Rockies. They're not the A's. They're not the Marlins. They're not in last, right? They're in the playoff hunt. So mid is what a lot of fans described it as, and I agree with that, because literally their record is 500, and their record yesterday was one game over 500. The Hoax says gutty. MIG says consistently losing, consistent ... losing, which isn't the case, because if they were consistently losing, they would not be at 500, or in that case yesterday, one game over 500. Michael Valenzuela says perseverance, sticking through injuries. Okay. Pretty Not Lieb says average. Ryan Smith says average. Conrad says average. James says average. David says mediocre. And yeah, I mean, all of these, like, I can point to positive signs with this team, but still say they're average, because that's what they are. But again, like I said earlier in the show, I don't care if they're an average team. If I see positive signs and they make the postseason and they're playing good baseball through the last, few weeks of the season and going into the postseason, that's what I care about. As much as I'd like to win the NL West, which would be cool, because that would mean that the Dodgers don't have that, what I care about most is winning in the postseason, getting there and then winning, because that's what we remember. We don't remember, remember that 94 win Padres team? If they didn't win the World Series, then is there a whole lot to talk about there? And even if they win 83 games and they get in and they go win. Now, Padres fans will remember the regular season win total, because we'll probably bring it up a bunch. Remember that 83 win team that won the World Series or went to the World Series? But regardless, just teams around baseball in the past, you win 84 games and you go on a World Series run. Do we remember, they didn't win the division, though? No, we don't care. We remember their postseason run that they went on. So that's what I care about the most. Paul says, this isn't one word, but inconsistent yet gritty, and love that the guys are picking each other up. Yes, that's, even if it wasn't one word, that was good. Yeah, inconsistent, gritty, though. They've come back at a better rate than last year's team, obviously, and they are picking each other up. It does feel different. It feels like this team does love each other. I'm not saying there wasn't any of that last year. I'm just saying that I can see the difference in this year's team compared to last year's team. Doug says, likable. I hated this team last year. No heart in them. At least this year they have some fight, and the vibes are way better. Totally good. That's a great point there. A great reply there. Alex says, roller coaster. Shildt. Don't say that to Shildt. 619 Boogie Down says inconsistent, and then he posted an image that had the 98 Padres logo, but instead of San Diego on it, Padres baseball, it's now that's what I call Padresing. So there's some of that in the fan base as well. Like, not surprising. This is who they are. Charles says underachievers. There are some that are saying bipolar. mean, that's them, not me. Daddy Umpire, Go Padres, says unstoppable. They're stoppable in some games. But yeah, a lot of inconsistent. Andres says consistently inconsistent. Warren commented the GIF with Elmo shrugging, like, oh, they're okay. And that's what they've been. Record-wise, which is what we care about the most, that's what they are. All right. Let's get to the chat. I appreciate everyone for the time. Super chats first, and if you put in a super chat while I'm going to the chat, I will pull yours up as well. Thank you for all the support. Jason says, good series win, but the bullpen is an issue that needs to be addressed. Suggestions, Talking Friars is a legit show on YouTube. Thanks for being on. No, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Kind words, and I appreciate the support. The bullpen is an issue. Look, this is something that, like, all contending teams are probably going to want. They're going to want another reliever because you can never have enough pitching. Who would you take out of this Padres bullpen right now is a question. Like, realistically, not as a fan that's like anyone in the bullpen, take your pick, but like realistically, because I don't think Yuki Matsui is realistic to like just take out of the bullpen. I think it's Steven Kolek, or do you just do away with Johnny Brito, a long man, and you just fill the innings however you can? Because Suarez, no. Estrada, no. Matsui, no. Wandy, no. Morejon, no. De Los Santos, I mean, maybe, but probably not. Because he's not making a ton of money, right? Half of what Barlow, I think, is making. That's why they made the deal. Kolek is the Rule 5. So if they get rid of him, then they have to give him back. Or what is it? Put him on waivers, I think. Or you give him back. Or if he doesn't get through waivers, you offer him back to the team that he was on. So I guess you point to Kolek or Brito, right? Because, I mean, Cosgrove, once Musgrove comes back, hopefully, then one of them's going to go. And then another is going to go if you're acquiring a reliever. So I just wonder who would that be, Padres fans that want another reliever. And is it going to be just a reliever that we're not thinking about? Just, some guy that has maybe a couple years of control. He's not making much money. And it's really like a no-name reliever, but someone that's been good this year. There's some Nats relievers. There's some Angels relievers that are vets that aren't making a ton, I wouldn't imagine. So maybe that's a target. And the Padres are like, yeah, we're not going to pay what the A's want for Mason Miller. We're not going to pay what some other teams want for, like, their top relievers. So we'll see. Quick break, by the way, and then I'll get back to the chat. Check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. All right, back to the chat. Raymond says back to 500. Dan says purgatory. JD's third, back to 500. David says, OS, this is live. What's good? Yeah, it's live. For those that are new, by the way, so I guess I should promote this more. After every series, I do a live show. After most games, I do the post-game reaction. Sometimes I do pre-game thoughts if I'm available. If big topics come up during series, I'll make videos on that. But yeah, I try to go live after every series to just go through the series, give reaction, give thoughts, allow fans to come on the show if they want to, and interact with you guys live here in the chat. Noah asks, how are we feeling about Tatis's injury moving forward throughout the season? I mean, I'm not feeling great about it because I just don't know. I'm not in there. I'm not a doctor. I'm not Mark Rago, the Padres head trainer. So it's a mystery. Like, how bad is it? Is the elbow bothering him? It doesn't seem like it is. So that's the good news. Is this something like what does it mean by manage it? Does it mean not playing a couple times a week? Does it mean DHing? Like, what does managing it mean? That's a question, I guess, that I have as well. Like, I know what managing means, managing an injury, but what are the specifics of it if this is something that's going to be there all year? Would it disappear if they put him on the IL for a couple of weeks? Can they afford to do that, though? 80% Tatis, 70% Tatis offensively. Is that better than David Peralta 100%? Probably. So it's something that they're going to have to weigh. Noah says, all that matters is that we win series. As long as we can do that, then we'll be in good shape moving towards the postseason. I agree. I don't know about that, Steven. Steven says, I still think the pitching staff is in the process of falling apart. It's not like the pitching staff overall, because we're seeing Waldron have good starts. Cease seems to be rebounding. Darvish is coming back. And then you look at the bullpen. I could talk about other starters. King, the talent's there. There's good outings, and it's inconsistent. King doesn't fall apart, consistently. So that's what I would have on that. And then bullpen-wise, Suarez, obviously, we trust. Estrada, we trust. Morahone, I trust in the bullpen. I trust him right now. Could change. But relievers, they're not falling apart. I'm not seeing, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing a bunch of the relievers in the bullpen falling apart. I'm seeing one not have some good outings, but then he bounces back. And when that guy's not having some good outings, someone else is having some good outings. And so it's like they're switching off, which you want them all to be good, but it's better than 3 relievers at the same time crap in the bed, because then that's when you choke games, right? And sometimes even when all it takes is one, or it takes a bad 3 batters and you lose. But, I mean, we saw it this series where a reliever, not great, but they had a big enough lead, got him out of the game, and then those other relievers came in, and they were good. The relievers before that guy was good. So I disagree with the falling apart part of that. Let's see here. Dave says, by the All-Star break, if the team has over 50 wins, they will be on a good pace for over 500. 15 of the first 20 games post-break is in the Eastern time zone, with only 5 games at home in between. Yeah, and I touched on that earlier today. Maybe this comment came in before I got into, or maybe it did come in after. I don't know, because I don't look at the chat when I am just initially starting the show talking about the series. But I did hit on it earlier in this show about how many games, because there's that big break, the All-Star break, and then there's games, because I think they end the first part before the break on the road, and then they play 3 road series on the road before they come back home at the end of July to face the Dodgers. That's what it is. And there's off days, obviously, in between that. So, yeah. Traveling for sure. A lot of Eastern trips. Yep. And hopefully they'll be playing better on the road, at that time. Steven says, who will be the few teams that will break out of this wild card bunch? I say Arizona and the Cubs, and they will be buyers at the deadline. Yeah, the deadline's going to be interesting, because you could see these teams that are in it, but they're not, super impressive. And these front offices probably had a goal going into the year, or like a frame of mind, like, yeah, okay, we're putting together a team, but we're probably going to sell pieces off at the deadline. But then they're around 500, and even if they thought they'd be around 500 at the deadline, they maybe didn't think that it would be this clustered and they'd have this great of a shot being 500, or maybe even a couple games under 500. And maybe that changes some things, but you could see teams sell if they have an excess of parts at the big league level, but they're buying at the same time. Maybe they're not selling prospects to buy, but they're selling big league pieces, but they're buying at the same time. You could see that. So I really don't know. There's a lot of teams right there, and there's still a lot of time before the deadline. Front offices, they're not even focused on the deadline or acquiring players, I don't think, very much, because the draft's coming up. That's their first focus. And then, because, by the way, as they're focused on the draft, it allows more of a sample size to be brought to their attention. and maybe they get a better picture of who their team actually is. And then they're going to be focused on the deadline because these front offices, I imagine, they want as much time as possible to evaluate who their team is before they go make these judgment moves. Now, Preller, right, acquiring Cease, that's different. You're trying to win. Okay, go do it. Arise, that's different. You're trying to win. Go do it. You have the opportunity. The Marlins, they were really bad, even at the time that they traded Arise. And the Padres are like, who knows if he's going to be available or, whatever. Come trade deadline, let's go get him right now. So that's where it was a different situation there. But most of the time, you wait till pretty much right before the deadline because they want that sample size. They want to see who are my guys, who is my team. Talking from a GM perspective. I see David wants to join the show. What's up, David?
Hey, speaking of the deadline, I wanted to ask you what do you think the Padres are going to do at the deadline?
Yeah, I think they're going to add. I think the selling that they do, it could be maybe a reliever. But I think the selling that they're going to do would be the prospects. I don't think Salas is getting traded. I don't think DeVries is getting traded, but I could see someone like an Adam Mazur being traded. If Robbie Snelling can progress and he ends up, being available for the big league level for the Padres. There's some other guys as well that could pop up bullpen-wise, prospect-wise for the Padres, and maybe that allows them to trade some guys that other clubs would value. But in terms of buying, I would say another reliever. I would not be surprised to see another starter. I think that's where the focus is going to be. Maybe another bat, but I think the Padres like David Peralta. I think they like Tyler Wade with the versatility he brings. I think that they like Donovan Solano. He's getting a lot of time in the lineup, so I'm not as confident that they're going to go get another bat as I am that they're going to go add another arm at least.
Yeah, because if they get another bat, at some point the line is going to become clustered.
Yeah,
which is not good because you want your best players to get playing time, but you also don't want to have too many players that it's just going to be a mess. And for the pitching, Musgrove, I believe, is coming back just after the All-Star break.
That's the earliest. It could be. Late July is the earliest. I think is what Kevin Acey's saying. I want to temper my expectations and say more early August.
All right. Yeah.
But what would be good? Sorry, David. Hang on. What would be good is, now that I'm thinking about it, have Musgrove come back the last 2 weeks right after the All-Star break, so you get some starts to see how he is health wise, and then if he's not good, you can go get a big time starter. Because if it's August, then you're just kind of hoping. You're in a weird spot. You don't know, is it worth it to go get a big time starter? Well, what if Joe comes back? You could always say, well, of course we want the big time starter regardless, but the Padres may not want to give up what they would give up for a Jesus Luzardo, Garrett Crochet, who comes with an injury risk. Both of those guys, if Musgrove is healthy, they can just go get a second tier guy.
Yeah, and speaking of getting a big time pitcher, I've seen some Padres fans saying that maybe Joe Musgrove, when he comes back, should be maybe the long reliever, and then we trade for a pitcher. I'm not sure how that would make sense. I don't think they would do that. B, I don't think Musgrove wants to do that. But it kind of makes sense because he's been getting injured off and on. Why not just put him in the long reliever role for this year, and then we'll get back at it next year?
No, I don't like that because, look, Joe was paid to be a starter, and I know Tatis was paid to be a shortstop and he moved positions, but that's different. And yeah, this is something that Joe would not. He would do it in the playoffs, and ultimately, if he was forced to do it, okay, he's a team player. He's not going to make a huge deal about it. But no, he's a starting pitcher. And look, he got hurt throwing a slider, I think, a breaking pitch in a bullpen session. He's still going to throw bullpens as a long man. And guess what? When do long mans pitch? When it's not this great situation, when it's not a close game. Joe Musgrove pitches in close games. He is supposed to be a frontline starter for this team. He's still in his prime. I'm not even thinking about that if I'm the Padres. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But he can get hurt as a long man anyway. He can get hurt as a 1 inning reliever. So no, I disagree with that.
Yeah, it's like, and that it's just the pitching injuries are crazy because Musgrove hasn't really been getting injured like this the past few years, and then all of a sudden this spring training he develops a sweeper, and then all of a sudden he's getting a bunch of elbow problems.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, for anyone that follows on social media, he's someone that goes to the Point Loma Nazarene lab and he works with Ruben all the time. So I assume that they've worked on it. It feels like it's his delivery. It's not really the sweeper. It's the delivery, and it's violent and it stops quick. And they're altering that. Like there's been reporting that they're going to be altering his delivery so that there's less stress put on his arm. So, I mean, the sweeper is a pitch that he's trying to be more effective as a pitcher. So you add that, and I think that he just has to alter that. We'll see. We'll see when he alters that delivery. If he alters the delivery and he still gets hurt throwing sweepers or sliders, whatever he's going to call it, then maybe that's an issue. But for now, I want to wait to see the new delivery. And we may not notice, but as long as Joe is saying it's different, then I'm going to believe that because they see the smallest little things because they know themselves the best, obviously.
Yeah, and I think the Padres maybe they could trade for like a Garrett Crochet or Michael Kopech because Crochet I'm pretty sure was a reliever last year when he came up, and Kopech obviously a reliever this year. So I'm thinking, well, they can go that they can pitch they can pitch.
Like, but the White Sox are valuing Crochet as a starter, so you have to give up more for Crochet than Kopech. Kopech is definitely an option. I'm not saying Crochet's not either, but I'm just saying even if you plan to use him as a reliever, the White Sox price tag is him as a really good starting pitcher.
Yeah, and it's just like if we want to get somebody, we're going to have to give up a bunch again. And it's just we're going to be questioning AJ, but like we want to win. It's a weird situation because AJ's job's in the line. He's trying to make moves. He makes a move. The Padres, the fan base hates him. He doesn't make a move. The fan base hates him. It's really tough.
Well, I mean, that's the situation AJ's put himself in. I guess the good news, maybe it's good, is that AJ doesn't have as much as he had, so he has to be smart about it. And I think we've seen this season when he does have to be smart about some things, there's a lot of moves that end up working out so far.
Yeah. Like that Soto trade, it's looking really good for us right now.
Yeah. I mean, Michael King, there's been promising things. Now Soto, he's mashing pretty well with the Yankees.
Yeah.
But we got Profar for $1 million. We have Merrill in center field. Remember, Grish was a part of that. And no one would rather have Grisham in center field over Merrill right now.
Oh, heck no.
So, yeah, I mean, we were going to lose Soto anyway. So get as much back. Cease obviously came here. Thorpe was part of the Yankees deal. Yeah, and then he goes to the White Sox. They flipped him. So, yeah, I mean, maybe, Steven Wilson, I think, is an option with the White Sox to bring him back because I don't think he's going to cost as much as Kopech or as much as obviously Crochet. Maybe some other, Urseg with the A's, definitely Mason Miller. So I wouldn't rule out that possibility.
Yeah.
All right, David. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. All right. Getting back to the chat, JD's Third says, this is a terrible time, Ben. House of the Dragon is on. I'm recording it. I don't know what that is, so sorry. I don't know what that is, so. Let's see. Steven says, if the Padres are in it at the deadline, I think they should play with what they have. Yeah, but I mean, Steven, I'll read the rest of what you say here. If they buy and have to trade any roster guys or farm guys, it will screw them for next season with this payroll. Okay, but I mean, I'm just reading it again. Play with what they have. So you're going to be happy if the trade deadline comes and the Padres make no additions to this team. I mean, I'm seeing people freak out about the bullpen. And so if they add nothing, we're just going to be fine with that. I understand your point. Like, you don't want to trade roster guys or farm guys, screw them for next season. But what if the Padres can add and they don't give away? Maybe they do have to give away Graham Pauley. But let's look at the positions that he plays. Third, first, he can play some outfield, but I know it's Merrill's like BFF, but I mean, if you want a good arm, you might have to do it. Let's say they don't give up Salas, DeVries, Snelling, Lesko. Those are the big four, right? Let's say even Lizarraga, Victor Lizarraga, I think is his name. Let's say they don't give up those guys. They don't give up Kevin Kopps either. They give up some other guys, but not those guys. They add some of maybe the guys they acquire have multiple years of control. We're not going to be okay with that. You could have the argument like, well, they haven't earned it. They're mid. Well, you also have to look at the situation. I understand that point, but you also have to look at the situation. If they're around 500, but they're in a playoff spot, they're definitely in the race, you believe in the talent that you have, give your clubhouse confidence and say, don't go with I believe in the guys in the room. No. Say, we believe in you. We're going to add to this team. We want to go on a run here. I think that's better than going back into the clubhouse and saying, we believe in you guys so much that we didn't make any moves. I think the clubhouse wants to see you make moves and add because they know, all right, the front office is in as well. They believe in us. Let's go do this. So I guess I understand your viewpoint a little bit, Steven, but I'd like to see this Padres team add. AJ asked, what do we do with HSK? That's something as well. I think that you'd be selling a little bit low, but if you know you're not going to bring them back, you want something back, and maybe you trade Kim to another contender. A contender has excess of pitching, let's say, another reliever that you like. You could do it that way. But Ha-Seong Kim still brings value to this team. Defensively, I know he's not the smartest base runner, but we know what he brings defensively. There's some positives sometimes offensively as well. I was hoping that he'd have a little bit better of a year offensively, but there's still time. I think they're going to keep him. We don't know about Bogaerts' health when he comes back. Injuries can happen. Might as well still have Ha-Seong Kim. And if David Peralta can't be on the roster because Ha-Seong Kim, Bogaerts, Croney, Manny, Solano, all those guys are on it, then so be it, I guess. Because if you trade Kim, then you're putting everything on Bogaerts, right? Pretty much. For him to stay healthy, because if he's hurt and Kim's gone, then what do? You're bringing Tatis back into the infield. You're going to bring Merrill into the infield and have him play short and have a Zokar play center every day. What about the Profar knee stuff? And Tatis with his quad. Croney plays second and Bogaerts is at short. What if Bogaerts gets hurt? Is Croney at short? Is Manny at short? Because he played short before. And you have Solano play another position. Like, what's going to happen there? You have Eggy play second. You have Croney play short. Arise stay at first. I mean, so I think they keep Kim. If they were going to sell him, I think you would have sold him before the season started. I know they were doing all that Soul Series promotion stuff, but and I mean, right now, how much is Kim going to get in free agency? He's not going to get as much as we thought he was going to get before the season started, right? Just saying. Dave says, Rookie of the Year odds currently at FanDuel for the National League has Merrill at plus 420. Skeens is minus 175. Imanaga is plus 550. All others are 10-1 or more. Yeah, Merrill, he's going to be creeping up. I know Skeens because he's the big name. And he's pitching well, like, no doubt. He got the strikeouts, got the velocity. He had the hype coming in. I think most of the hype at the beginning of the year was around Jackson Chourio. I think it's Jackson, right? With the Brewers, but he has not panned out so far. Things can change, but Merrill is off to a way better start. And there's Imanaga as well that got off to a really good start, so he got a lot of play. So we'll see. But Merrill is deserving of being among the nominees for Rookie of the Year. He deserves to be talked about for sure. All right. My laptop's about to die, so I think that's going to do it. Talking Friars, episode 610. Thank you all for the time. Reminder, some of the great partners of the show, Gagler & Bros. Main location is on Friars Road. Great cheesesteaks and garlic fries. Breaking Tea. Click the link in the description. Padres, Aztecs, Wave shirts and sweatshirts. The Wave, they are back home this Friday. You can get your tickets on the San Diego Waves website. Underdog Fantasy, you will get $250, 50% deposit match up to $250, and you can claim a special pick when you use Underdog Fantasy for the first time. Code Talking Friars. Same code with SeatGeek. And by the way, I saw someone DM me, I think over the weekend, and they were wondering, like, does my code still work for SeatGeek? And it does. But if you've already used another SeatGeek code, I don't think that it works. I think it's first-time SeatGeek users use the code, and then you'll get $20 off that first purchase, that first order. But if you have another one that you've used already, that's probably why it'll say, like, there's been an error or something like that. All right. Hopefully the Padres will be able to carry this good play for the most part that they've been doing here against CJ Abrams and the Washington Nationals. By the way, the Washington Nationals are around the same that the Padres are. So should be an interesting series here at Petco Park. Monday, I think tomorrow's fireworks after the game. Tuesday, I think is the Ha-Seong Kim bobblehead. I don't know if there's anything Wednesday. But yeah, that's what we got coming up. Thank you all so much for watching or listening. Have a great night.